Welcome to the Jay Duke Show. You know, one of the things I love about this show is bringing you so many guests from the equestrian world and the show jumping world, and it's really amazing the people we have on this show. And today's couple is really going to knock your socks off. Got Paige Jardine and Nicky Galligan coming on, and they are all about what this sport is for me and for so many people in it. So really excited to have these two come on the show, and we're going to be having great topics about horsemanship and working your way through the business and really doing it in an inspirational and an amazing way. I want to thank Equivont for coming on board today. Equivont is an absolutely amazing company, and you really have to check them out. They have so many riders that they work with. I went on their site this morning. Currently, they have over 500 horses listed for sale, and it's really a great list of horses as well. And that's pretty amazing in today's world, because everyone's talking about how sales this year, and it's so hard, sales are so great in 2021, and trying to find horses is so difficult. And to see over 500 top quality horses listed for sale all on one site is amazing. Hunters, jumpers, equitation horses, ponies, dressage, eventing, lease horses. It's a great format. It's easy to navigate. You could search by the seller. You could search by name. You really need to check them out. Equivont works closely with many of the top sales barns in America. And another thing I really liked about them was their nonprofit page. There's so many, foundations and horse rescues on there. And check out their nonprofit page if you love horses. That is a really cool site to see. So I'm going to bring on my guests, and we have Nicky Galligan here, who jumped onto the international equestrian scene the past 2 months in Thermal, California, Desert International Horse Park, with his amazing little chestnut mare, Java's Miss Jordan. We're going to be talking extensively about her and that story. And along with Nicky is his partner, Paige Jardine, who is also an accomplished Grand Prix rider from Australia. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Jay. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. We're excited.
Oh, thanks so much for coming on. And you two have had a very eventful last 2 months in the desert in California. It's been a great, great run, and you're becoming a bit of a household name with Java's Miss Jordan. And I wanted to start with her, and I want to start with what happened last Sunday with you winning the $250,000 class at Desert International Horse Park. Just describe the emotion. You put so much into that moment. What was it like when you put in that amazing winning time? And we're going to see that round in a minute, but tell us what it was like.
I think I've only just stopped crying, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it was quite overwhelming with on an emotional front. There's been a lot of work, a lot of struggle, a lot of tough days to get to a day like that, but it's been something that I believed in from one of the first times I ever sat on her. And to finally be able to show the rest of the world truly how special I've always thought she is really incredible.
It is. And Paige, what was it? You put so much hard work and tears into this and such. What was it like being a part of that moment?
There's no words to describe it, Jay. I mean, like, nobody knows as much as I do what Nicky's been through to get to this point. And like you said, he's believed in that horse since day one, and there's been every man and his dog try and tell him that he should sell her, or it's not going to work, or, you're going to ruin her, or you're not going to do the right thing by her. And he's kind of sat back through it all and said, no, I got this. So, she's going to be what I know she's going to be. And he's made it happen. He's sacrificed a lot of things to get there. And so to see someone that, you share so much with, and you have such a passion in the sport with, to go on and do what they said they're always going to do is, there's just no words to describe that.
That just gives me goosebumps.
I'll cry again. Looks like right here.
That's really amazing. And even particularly the part when you say, oh, you should sell that horse and you're going to ruin her and you'll never make it, and that. I mean, you know what? When we're younger and whatever, everyone's said mean words and said that sort of thing. And I had a similar moment when I was 19 years old and working for someone, and I left them, and they said, well, you'll never ride again. And then the next year when I was beating them in the international ring in a Nations Cup, that felt good, to be honest with you. So congratulations for that. So in a moment here, we're going to put that round up, and we're going to have you talk it through. But before we do that, just talk about the setting. It was a little bit unique. There were no fans there, but there still was a really electric environment there at Desert International Horse Park for that class. It had been 8 weeks of building up to this moment. So what was it like that morning of the class, and what was your preparation like for it?
I think that's it. It had been 8 weeks of building towards that moment, hoping you'd done everything right. You had your preparation exactly where you wanted to be. Of course, the finale always brings a little bit more excitement. We'd had a couple of friends from the East Coast fly over for the week to be supportive with us. You just trust everything that you've done at that point and try and block out the world and focus in on what you need to do. Isolate it to just us and hope that everything goes the way you need it to go.
Nice. Yeah. Honestly, not that dissimilar to a lot of the other mornings. We went to the bar on the same early hour of the morning as we always do, and we did stalls and we rode some horses, and Nicky took care of Jordan, and I think got her out of the stall and gave her a really light lunge to stretch her legs. Like, it was nothing, as big as that class was and exciting as that day was, the day itself wasn't any different to what we would always do with the horses. I'd say it probably changed a little come like 11 o'clock, and the butterflies started to kick in and they started setting the course, and Jordan started getting braided and that kind of thing. That's when it starts to kind of become real. But the rest of the morning was just another day at the office.
Yes, and that routine is so important for athletes, the human and the horse variety, to keep that routine and not to change that. And I think that's probably one of the reasons you had such a consistent performance, because I believe that you placed in 8 FEI classes in that circuit, is what I heard, and that's extreme consistency. And I always think, honestly, a lot of people can win one class. That's, it's not easy to do, but it can happen. But to be consistent like that over a period of time at a top level of competition, that's a challenge and shows great horsemanship. So we're going to bring this video up, and we're going to have Nicky, we're going to have you talk us our way through this jump off. And it's a pretty fast jump off. It didn't take very long because I know I was doing the commentary for it, so we had to talk quickly. And so just to set the scene, so Richard Spooner had been in the ring. Richard's horse was not a fast horse, but Richard's such a fast rider, and he just rode a beautiful track with perfect lines, and he's so deceptively quick. So that's the scene. So you're coming in, you're the second in the ring, second and last in the jump off, because it was such a challenging course, and we're going to have you talk our way through this.
So I think as I'm standing at the in-gate, I'd watched Richard, I'd watched his track, I'd seen how tight he was, I'd trotted into that white vertical, I'd seen where he'd been, and I went, oof, that's tight. I pick up canter here. I started to get a really good rhythm established. Try to slice the jump number 1. She really gives it to me. And I'm very much forward thinking here, thinking be safe, cut the angle a little bit, but got lucky. Big sigh of relief here, and then it's just keep coming. Now all the risk is gone. The worst I can be is second. Keep the rhythm. Here she was phenomenal for me. Try to balance a little in the turn to stop her getting on the forehand. And now I take another big sigh. This, we're away. She's gone. This, I know now she's jumping clear. Back to a double and a jump off. She's always phenomenal. She's so good at reading part B. Here I see about 2 more steps and I think, oh no, go for it. And then a sigh here as we cross the line. This is just overwhelming raw emotion and the pride I have in her in this moment. She dug in, she gave me everything, and it's just so special.
She loves this sport as much as Nicky does. Like, I really believe it. Like, at this point in her career, she would go out and jump the jumps on her own. She wants to go out there and she wants to win just as much as Nicky does.
And Paige, during the jump off, so where are you when they're in the ring? Like, are you at the gate? Are you in the stands in the warm break? Are you not watching? What are you doing?
I'm in the stands, normally videoing because I can't not video. It gives me something to do. But a lot of the times I video and I drop the phone and I miss a jump and I swear and it's horrible. The videos I take, they're awful. But there's normally a couple people around me like holding on to me, or they'll like grab me if she has a rub or something, and then they come pick me up after she jumps clear. Honestly, like the people around us out in California this winter was so incredibly supportive and genuinely happy for you to have a result like that. Like at the end of the class, people that came up to me and I was like, I didn't do anything. I put the braids in, but other than that, it was Nicky out there that won the class. But they want to be there with you, and hug you and congratulate you and, you know, support you and be part of that moment with you. And it is a really tough sport for being on your own. And, you know, it's an individual sport and you travel so much and we're both so far away from family that to have people like that around you. I mean, even Spooner, like he was so incredibly kind words that he said to Nicky after the class, you know, about winning. But to have people like that around you that genuinely are so happy for you when you have a result like that, like that in itself is just as emotional and just as heartwarming as the win itself, I think.
It's funny, after she jumped clear, we went back to the stall with her and gave her a moment, and I just thought before the end of the first round I'd run back up and kind of visualize the jump off. And I get back up to the in gate, and of course I stop for a moment, and Richard's standing right beside me. And we just get into chatting a little bit about the first round and talking about the jump off and just chit chat. And he looked at me and he touches me on the shoulder and he says, I think it's the steamboat against the speedboat in the jump off, but good luck to you. And I kind of smiled and smirked at him and I went, genuine mind games? Oh, we'll have fun.
Oh, that's a great story. And yeah, Will said, and Spooner he's such a great sportsman and couldn't be a better competitor to go up against, and a great win against the master of faster, no question. Let's talk about Java's Miss Jordan as a young horse, because you know, I mean, I've bought lots of young horses and some of them I went on to ride on the team and internationally, and you know, it's just so much fun to buy young horses. Now I'm going to make a guess here because I don't know this. I didn't see Miss Jordan when she was a 5-year-old, but I would assume that, you know, what stood out about her? I mean, she's a little small. Her conformation is not out of the book. You know, it's not ideal.
No, not at all.
That's very polite of you, Jay.
Her canter is not exactly what you'd look for in a young horse. You know, what stood out to you as a young horse that said, you know, there's something here, there's something special?
The feeling on the takeoff stride of a jump. And I've always said, for sure, I've ridden horses with more raw talent and more raw scope than she has, no question. But at the end of the day, talent and scope only goes so far. You know, there's got to be heart, there's got to be belief, there's got to be the desire to go in that ring and jump clear. And when there's a moment, you know, there's always a moment where you can try a little harder and leave the rail up, or a horse just gets a little bit blasé and knocks it out of the way. From a very early age, those things stood out with her. You know, the feeling on the takeoff stride, she always felt like a horse that was almost pushing off a trampoline. She got great propulsion off the floor. And, you know, she was always criticized on the outside for being a little bit square in front or a little bit loose. But what I really liked about her was the body height that she got over the jump. I think they always learn to be a little bit tighter with their legs, but I love the fact that they come off the ground, get good bascule, and get high enough into the air. And I'd been in Florida a couple of years before. I'd ridden some horses that Dara Kenny had won some big Grand Prix on. And I always just used to say, she feels like nothing I've ever sat on before. And that was a feeling that I believed in and always thought, she can jump 160, she can go there.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important thing with horses is, you know, there's all the measurables, but when it comes right down to it, there's those intangibles there. And sometimes you just have to go with your heart and just like, you know what, I got a feeling here. And ultimately I've got, you know, when I look at young horses, I've got hundreds of different checkpoints that I go through. But the most important one is, how do I feel about this horse? And that's always what it comes down to. So that's a great story. And Paige, you know, when did you see Miss Jordan for the first time? And what was your thoughts when you saw her at that time?
I didn't really know Nicky when I first saw Jordan go, but basically everything that he's talking about, like, you could see that she had heart. You could see that she had fight. But again, that she wasn't built like everything else that was going out in the same class, you know. But again, the fight and the heart, there was also like this undeniable connection between Nicky and her that, again, you don't see much of either. You know, she doesn't do a lot of boxes, but at the end of the day, she trots out in the ring with her ears pricked. She grows a hand when she gets out in the ring, and Nicky could canter her towards a barn, and if he asked her to jump it, she would try and jump it for him. And I think that's something that, whether you know Nicky or not, I think a lot of people can see that bond and that connection. Like, people actually ask me a lot of the time, you know, like, where do you fit into the pecking order page? You know, does he look after you as well as he looks after Jordan? And the truth is, he doesn't, but that's fine. It's all fine. It's great. But they have a really special connection. Like, I think that you know, that is so rare nowadays, because, you know, a lot of riders will have horses that an owner might have for them, and that a groom takes care of. Albeit, you know, we are so fortunate to have some amazing grooms in this industry. I think the partnership that you create, taking care of your own horse and working with your own horse, and like, he would know how many hairs that horse has on her body. You know, he would know if there was one that was a little bit whiter than the rest of the red hairs. Like, he just knows her inside out, because he spends so much time with her and because he has for so long. And that's something that, you know, you can't buy or you can't teach. It's literally just time and horsemanship, and, you know, a long time, I guess. But it's all paying off, and it's all working out pretty good to this point.
Absolutely. And it's so great to hear, you know, you looking after your own horses and spending that time. And I think that bond is so apparent, you know, in the show ring. You can see that teamwork, and the love that horse has for you, and how much she tries for you. And that is wonderful to see. So I'm sure in the past 7 years, you've had an offer or two on the horse, you know, because it is a very good jumping horse. How did you go about the decision to say, you know, I'm going to stick with this and make this happen? I mean, you're a young couple and you're hardworking, and obviously you could probably do, you know, all of us could do with a couple extra dollars. How did you go about that decision? Because so many people are faced with that, you know what, I'm going to hang on to her and see what happens.
I think you're right. There's been kind of informal approaches. Would you consider, would you for this much? Or, you know, you're crazy. I'd sell my granny if it was for enough money. And, you know, the answer has always been, you don't sell a dream. That horse has been a dream for me. I've always wanted to ride at the highest level. That's been my motivation, my driving factor. If it were simply down to making an income, you know, there are far different avenues to take in life than this. This is hard work, it's grind, it's uphill battles, and we do this purely because it's something we're so passionate about. You know, I'm just a kid that fell in love with a pony that turned into a horse, that this is what I wanted to do. So that being the case, the answer has always been from a distance, no, not for sale, I'm going to stick it out. And, you know, then you get people in a different position will say to you, oh, well, you're going to ruin her, or you don't have enough experience to ride her, or you can't do this. And, you know, okay, fine, that's your opinion. I'm going to keep doing what I believe in, and hopefully I'll prove you wrong one day. You know, and that's, you hear all those things in your mind, like after Sunday, after something like that happens, and you can just sit in the stall quietly with her and just reminisce a little bit and just quietly soak it all in.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that, because I know, you know, there's going to be thousands of people watching this show, and they all, of course, love horses. And so to hear those sort of stories from, you know, an FEI Grand Prix winner is really, really special. And so thank you for that. Let's talk about Miss Jordan. She has a couple, you know, little respiratory issue, whatever, that you had some special attention with and you have to work with. And how have you gone about and managed that? Because you've obviously done a great job of managing this horse. You know, she's 12 years old and healthy and sound and winning. So how have you gone about doing that?
So I just, even to go back a little bit, like you said there a few minutes ago about the consistency she's had over the circuit, how she's placed in so many of her FEI classes. That's also been a long-term aim. You know, I very easily could have jumped her big as a 9-year-old and pushed and asked her to go further, but I didn't feel it was right then. And it's always been something I've said, when she steps out to that level, I want to be able to stay there consistently with her, because I believe she's good enough to do that. There's no tricks, there's no anything. She's that talented, she's got that much heart. So there was a lot of slow work in the background, a lot of double cleans. You know, I heard Nick's interview last week, and something that he said that really resonates with me is, you want to try and teach a horse to jump clean. You don't want to try and catch them out. You don't want to try and teach them to not jump. When we train at home, the oxers are always a hole higher behind, teach them to read the fence. I always jump with big ground rails just to encourage belief and confidence. And I think the more time you put in and teach her to jump double clear, a little bit slower, and she's jumping consistently clear and clear, that then as you start to turn a little bit the screw and want to start to win, she understood what winning meant. And now she's as proud of a win as I am. And I think when somebody comes to pin that ribbon on her bridle, she again grows a hand, the ears are pricked, she paws, you know, so it's a team there. And that's something that was important to me for a long time. So I just wanted to touch on that.
That's really interesting, because that was the one thing that stood out to me about, obviously, the interview with Nick Skelton last week was phenomenal. But what really grabbed me was when he said that about the training at home is you don't trick a horse, you teach them, you know, just to always set them up for success and to jump clear. And so for you to grab on that comment too, that tells me a lot about your horsemanship and your training methods and what you look for. So that's really interesting. Paige, what do you think, you know, as far as the special care and what's gone on into the consistent results, you know, from your aspect that you've seen as a horse person?
I think the last 12 months, I guess, where she's really been consistent at a higher level has come from everything that Nicky's talked about, developing her from a young horse, but probably it's all of our knowledge with our past horses kind of rolling together in that we can bounce things off each other. You know, I tried one thing with this horse a few years ago and this is a result I had. Maybe we should talk about doing this, or, you know, vice versa. You know, she has a few things now that we've only introduced really over the last 12, 18 months. She uses a hay gain now, which us traveling as much as we do, you know, that keeps the hay a little more consistent and, you know, takes out the dust and the microtoxins and all of that. So that helps with her. She uses a nebulizer now that, again, the breathing issue is something that Nicky's always had her so fit and so conditioned. You know, that's, again, the training at home. You don't want to do that when you get to the show. That's kind of where you relax and let them do their thing. But she's always been really, really fit. But I guess last winter, she probably had, you know, a back rail of an oxer, you know, sort of 2/3 of the way around the course that she shouldn't have had. You know, she's always had the ability to jump it, but maybe was just kind of running out of gas a little bit. And Nicky has had asthma, so he kind of, you know, we started talking about, well, maybe Jordan's feeling something similar. You know, what can we do to help it? So that's when he introduced the nebulizer as well. Nicky does a lot with Dr. Tim Ober. And they tested her for a lot of those, you know, the breathing and the bag tests and everything, and kind of thought, you know, what have we got to lose? Try the nebulizer on her and see what happens. And she actually probably doesn't use it as much in California as she does on the East Coast, just because the climate is so good out here. But you've probably found, like, since using that, you know, the muscle recovery and the lactic acid buildup and all that type of thing has improved so much that the last fence on Sunday in the Grand Prix was huge oxer, like biggest oxer on the course, and she jumped it nearly the easiest out of everything. You know, whereas 12 months ago, that might have been where she got a little bit, like, kind of would start to get a little, like, catty behind and crampy behind. But again, not because she didn't have the ability to do it, just because she was just running out of coal in the engine, kind of.
Yeah. No,
yeah, I think we talked about, like, I chatted with some friends of mine and, you know, watched videos and riders that have had a lot more results than I had at the time and stuff. And they kind of kept saying to me, she looks like she could be a little fitter. And I was like, no, it's not fit. It's like, in that moment, she lost a little bit, but she'd come out of the ring and she'd recover quicker than any other horse. But it was just in that moment, she wasn't getting enough. And it was Live Oak last year, actually, that, you know, I really went, no, this isn't right. She had jumped a couple of Grand Prix and had one down, kind of in the way Paige is talking about. And through Rowan Willis is a friend of mine. He'd used hay gain. We had a chat about that. I talked to Dr. Ober and some other friends had used the nebulizer. And we just kind of said, right, let's skip a few of the tests. What's the worst that we can do? And obviously the plan was that she was going to jump to million last year in Ocala, and with COVID, everything got a bit derailed. So I'd started nebulizing and started hay gaining, but not really seen any change because I had nothing to measure it off because everything got stopped in its tracks. And then from the middle of last summer when she started back jumping again, the change was huge. And I think it's been one building block on top of another, because I think as she's got more confident in her breathing, she's also trusted her body more in the ring. So I think it's each time she goes in the ring and doesn't feel herself get a little gassed like that, she actually gets a little bit more relaxed and lets go a little bit more through her body over the jump.
She started swimming since. Oh, sorry, Jen.
I was going to say just those little details and noticing that, and when you're competing at that 4-star level, 5-star level, it's those little things that make all the difference. And so kudos to
big difference at that.
Yeah. Kudos to both of you for finding that piece of the puzzle, and a great shout out to Hey Gain, who's been a sponsor on the show before, and it's a wonderful product. So that's really, again, that goes back to the horsemanship angle that you two provide, and part of the success for it. So I want to talk, you mentioned there about 2019, and I want to get to that. You had a difficult year in 2019. Your father became ill with the COVID virus, and believe me, that's not fun. I had to deal with the COVID virus, and I was very sick, and it was not a nice month for me in the hospital whatsoever. I know you had to go home and to, deal with some family issues and that. So if you can just kind of talk us through that, because I think that's a big part of the story of what you've accomplished here, or sorry, 2020, not 2019.
Yeah,
and
2020.
I'm a year off. And to talk about how that was for you and how you worked through that and kept your focus to get to where you are today.
So I think, like you just said, 2020 was a year of incredible difficulty and change for a lot of people. I have a story of 2022. Thankfully, mine is a more happy outcome, but my father contracted COVID. He ended up spending 4.5 weeks on a ventilator. Was incredibly sick. We had multiple phone calls from the hospital. Medically, there's nothing more we can do. We don't know if he's still going to be here tomorrow. Right now, it's up to fight. It's whether he can hold on there and stay with us. So that was an incredibly emotional, trying time. And like you said, I went home to be with my family. I have one other sister, so I went home to be with mom and my sister at the time. Thankfully, in the end, with Dad, it came out a happy ending. He came off the ventilator after having a tracheostomy, and then made a phenomenal recovery. I remember the sheer relief of having the phone call from the nurse to say that procedure had gone well. But this is still a long way from getting out of the woods. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months. We don't know if he'll walk again. We are not sure how being ventilated affects patients of this age category. And then by some miracle, 10 days later, he walked out of hospital twirling a cane in his hand. He was weak, he was frail, but on his own, no age, sheer determination to get back out and to get home. So that was really a blessing, and something that we're so grateful that we do have a happy ending. That I guess that came with a little casualty back on this front. I had a good job at the time, riding for somebody and producing horses, and with COVID that ended that. So I guess through that with Dad, when he got home, we had some family discussions. I offered to come home. Did they want me to come back, be there, help with the farm at home for the next 6 months or whatever, see how everything went? It was emotional, to say the least, but Dad kind of put his hand on me and said, you haven't gave up fighting yet. I got out of the hospital. I look after the farm. You get back there and make us proud. So I think that then I was never really short of motivation or steel to dig in. I think I get a lot of that from my dad, but that sent me back really on a mission. I ended up going to a really good friend of mine, Colin McGuckian in New York. He had a barn on Long Island. I did a lot of teaching, just lessons, not so much clients or horse show clients, just a lot of lessons, a lot of hard work. And then we'd go to a show at the weekend. I guess we were very lucky in North America that Saugerty's hits was running. They had some really big national Grand Prix. So I could teach all week at home at the farm, and Saturday drive up for check-in and then jump on Sunday. And she really had some phenomenal results there over the summer against some really good horsepower. She was fifth in two $200,000 Grand Prix, and I actually did the fastest time it went down in the jump off with both of them. And then a couple of weeks later, she was second in a $100,000 Grand Prix. We had stalls booked to go to try on last fall. One morning, Colin and Paige were at the barn a little bit before me, and they'd seen the advertisement for the the Riders' Cup and the Riders' Bonus that was out here in California, and kind of said to me, what's the point in going to Tryon? You know, you've only got one horse, try and be a little smarter with her. So I kind of laughed at them and went, yeah, of course. And then as we all processed and thought about it, we really thought, okay, that's the right thing to go and do.
Little did Nicky know, Colin and I had everything planned. This is where we're going. These are the shows we're doing. This is where we're stopping. We're going to take these horses with us and sell them. We had it all figured out. Like, Nicky, like, never, ever, ever, ever takes a day off. And I think I managed to leave him in bed for like an hour one morning. And in that hour that he stayed at home, Colin and I had planned the entire circuit to come over to California. So you should take a day off more often, really.
That's right. So just to recap there. So essentially your father became critically ill. You go home to, you know, potentially say goodbye to him. And as a result of that, you lose a job that was very important to you. And, you know, the story there is that, you know, people always talk about, you know, one door closes, another door opens, and you kind of like, oh yeah, whatever type of thing. But you really
next door, I'd say it didn't open. He kicked.
Yeah, and what strength of character for the two of you, because obviously Paige, you had a big part of that as well, to take that, because I mean, for some people that would have been, you know, that could have been it, you know, and justifiably so. So that's truly a great strength of character. And then to see here where you are now, you know, 6 months later, is and just on your way. And I want to talk about that next, you know, just on your way to what is going to be next. So, you know, this is a tough sport. We all know that. It's a very expensive sport. There's no getting around that. We talk about it a lot on this show as far as how expensive it is. You know, you two obviously are great horse people. You're very hardworking, and, you know, and you're just wonderful people in general. But, you know, you're not multi-billionaires like most people are not. And so, but you've decided that, hey, we want to make a go of this business that we love. So how are you going to do that? What's next, and what is your plan to try to, you know, move forward?
Well, Jay, I thought you were going to do an episode in the next few weeks of how to make this a business. Like, come on, we're sitting here waiting for you to do that. How do we do it? We don't know yet. Look, I think at the end of the day,
well, I'm looking for material for that episode.
Okay, all right.
I'm hoping you can give me some blueprints here to start it off with. So, Paige, let's start with you. What is your, you know, what is your plan? Let's, you know, starting for this year, and how, you know, what do you want to have happen down the road? What are you looking for?
Well, that's a very open-ended question, I guess. But, you know, in the perfect world, Nicky and I we've both produced some very nice horses from youngsters, so we have that skill set. I've managed for a lot of big barns on the East Coast. Like last year, I was with Jonathan Corrigan at Twin Oaks Ventures, and he's still been incredibly supportive of our endeavors and our wild ideas and everything. So he's still a great friend of ours. So that kind of, you know, knowledge and skill set as well. And both Nicky and I have worked with some really good riders, have, you know, gone on to jump some big classes and be successful and achieve some of their goals and whatnot. I think kind of with that group of skill sets and our work ethic and our drive and our ambition, you know, I hope we can kind of encourage a few people to come on board with us and, you know, come to some shows with us or stay at home and train with us, whatever that might be. You know, we probably would have a very unique approach to the horse world, in that it is horses first and then the business second. You know, we're lucky that what we would do as a hobby anyway, we get to do as a career. So that being said, you know, if we can work hard and pass on our knowledge and use our skill set to, you know, help other people enjoy this sport as much as we do, and help other horses enjoy this sport as much as we do too, you know, like right now we have a young 6-year-old that it does tick all the boxes, like the conformation, the ability, the breeding and everything. So we're really excited about him. And then we have another young 8-year-old that we probably produce, you know, to be a sales horse, because she's ticks all those boxes. And that's, again, part of the business a little bit. But, you know, I think between all of that, and our mindset and our values and everything, you kind of hope there's a few people that see that and appreciate that and want to be a part of it. Because, like I said, at the end of the day, there's no one that's going to work as hard as us. That's absolutely one thing that we can assure you, that there's nothing we won't do to make sure we can be successful in this industry. But at the same time, I don't know anyone that puts horses first like we do either. We take care of them all ourselves, like we said before. No days off. We do night check. We've done night check every day for the last 12 months. That type of thing. Like, you can't really expect someone to come and put a horse in your care and trust you, with their most prized possession, and then kind of give someone else the responsibility to do it. We're here doing it firsthand, our physical hands taking care of the horses all day, every day. And I hope that's enough. I really hope that's enough.
Yeah, I do believe that it is. And because there is a lot of people that really admire that and respect that. So Nicky, for you, as far as, okay, so you smashed this store down into 2021 and it's been successful so far. What's next for you? Where would you like to see your career go?
So yeah, that's one of the things, I guess it's a little unique in the horse world. I'm a diehard competitor. Like, I'd run through a brick wall to win. I grew up playing a lot of football where you're in control of your own destiny and your own physical conditioning. Then when you're developing horses, that's a little bit of a change. You have to try and do the right thing for the team. You have to put the horse first, pick the days when to nurture and when not to ask all the questions. I think it's great that Jordan's trying to get a place now to go out and be competitive consistently. The next thing for me personally is now to try and find how I might add a little bit more depth to a string of horses to try and take a little bit of the pressure off of her. This season we've been incredibly fortunate with being able to pick when to rest her and when to jump her and have her show up for this past Sunday. If that's at a show on the East Coast where there are a lot more entries, she's going to have to be pushed a little bit harder on the qualifying day, and you can't just say, I need to save everything for the Grand Prix. So to try and find, whether that's a sales horse to take into this ring to compete a little bit, put some results on and move on, or hopefully maybe come across somebody that shares a little bit of the ideals and the values of us, where they appreciate the sport and it's a sport where they love horses. We'd love to try and meet some people like that, where maybe we could develop a relationship and develop some horses with people like this. So that's a big project for me personally, is to try and find a little more horses to ride.
Right. And I do think, what's interesting, they do say nowadays, you have to have a string of horses, and, you have to have a string of horses on the East Coast, the West Coast, Europe, and doing all this and that. And obviously that, that is somewhat the way the sport has gone, but I still believe it is really just that one special horse that can get you to where you want to be, and can be the door that opens other doors for you in the future and that. And certainly that looks to be the direction that the two of you are focusing on. So what is next for you in 2021? Now, where do you head now that you can take a short break here for the mare, and then where do you head next?
So the plan is to head back to the East Coast now in the next week to 10 days, back somewhere in the New York area. She'll have a little bit of time off, like we said, and then probably she'll jump one of the Old Salem shows in spring. Put in an application to try and ride at Devon, because for me, I enjoy those prestigious shows, not just a new show that's showing up. I like the history of the sport. I like the shows that have a deeper meaning in the past. So a few weeks ago, we put in an application for Devon to try and get in. We have to cross our fingers and hope we can get accepted. But I think that's a ring that she'd love to compete in, loves the atmosphere, small ring, really suit her. So Old Salem, Devon, and then probably Upperville. And then again, a little bit of a pause, a little bit of rest and recovery, and then move more into the summer.
It is so great to see Devon happening again this year. So glad that show has been able to come back. I love competing there. The atmosphere is electric, and it's so quaint, and the history is amazing. So that was great. So we're going to just get one piece of advice from you, Nicky, for the young riders out there. Right now, watching the show, there's going to be lots of young kids and young riders that are passionate about horses just as you are, and love them and want to make a go of it. What would be, one word of advice that you would have for them to help them achieve their goals?
I think the basics, the work hard, that's a given in everything. But I think the heart and belief. I think once you dream enough and once you believe enough, you're always going to hit stumbling blocks. You're always going to hit hurdles. But if you work hard enough and believe enough in what you're trying to achieve, you'll always find a solution to any problem that's put in front of you. So never give up.
Never give up. That's so great. Thank you so much for that. And Paige, thank you so much for joining on this show. It's really been a pleasure to get to know the two of you better. Congratulations on all your recent success and best of luck in the near future.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks so much for having us.
Jay.
All right. Thank you. So next week we have our concussion roundtable. We've been talking about this for a while. We've got some neurosurgeons coming on the show, some brain experts that are coming on from Florida, and really excited about this show because it's, our health is so important. I've had, some severe concussion issues, and I've written about that in articles and such. Concussions are a big deal, and we are going to give you all the facts you need to know on how to stay safe and how to best look after your body next week on our concussion roundtable. I want to thank Equivont. Over 500 horses currently listed for sale on the Equivont. Everything you can need: hunters, jumpers, equitation, ponies, dressage, eventing, lease horses, whatever you want to find. I know that Nicky and Paige work with Equivont. It's a great site. So check them out, and thank you so much to them for helping out with this show and bringing this fabulous couple to our viewing audience. I want to thank Horse Network, Carly Sparks, our producer, who does a wonderful job. Thank you so much for everything that you do. As always, ride safely and respect the horse. Good day.
I know you were very